September shore. Cheer up, Jack, bright smiles await you from the fairest of the fair, and her loving eyes will greet you with kind welcomes everywhere. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Internet Needs to Calm the Hell Down About Games. This is week 13, episode 13. It's mid-January and we're still rocking. This game started off with just a thought about maybe bringing to light all the controversies on the internet about games, but it turned into something organically, where it's just two dudes talking about what they're playing, what they've played, and internet news about games. We try to keep game focused, but sometimes my man and I definitely veer off into tangents, and it's always good fun. If you hear anything in the background today, I promise you I'm not killing anybody. My wife is meal prepping in the background, so there's all sorts of shit going down in the kitchen. I'm K-Med, and my man Agasicles over here, in the LG shirt and his hot white beanie. I like it. He's got a different hat every day.
It's actually green, which is...
Is it really?
Yeah.
All right, it looks all right. It's probably like lime green or something. The light hits it. I thought it was white.
Do not adjust the dials on your television set.
All right. Yeah, we got some different games this week. It looks like both of us have been playing some stuff, and we'll definitely teleport back into the WayBack Machine, as we always do. But I guess I can start off since I'm hosting tonight. I heard of rumors of an update to Jedi Fallen Order, which I hadn't really touched much at all because I heard so much about it being like Dark Souls or like a Soulsborne type of game. So I was like, nah, I'm not touching that. That's way too frustrating. Not gonna do it. But it is from a developer that I've liked their other games. Titanfall 2 was like fantastic and totally underrated. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll give it a shot. So I went in with an open mind. I'm actually enjoying the gameplay, other than some sequences that are pretty damn hard, even on normal. But I wouldn't say that they're unbeatable. I've played Bloodborne. I've played probably just Bloodborne, really. I think I might have played the original Demon Souls back on the PS3 at some point. But it is not Bloodborne. It is not quite that bad. You get a cute little robot companion. I'm kind of enjoying it. They did a good job with the game. I've had a couple crashes on my Series X, and what I did notice is, regardless of what they what they're advertising as a next gen patch, it's definitely still a backwards compatible game, meaning that you're not getting all the horsepower in the next gen systems being used for it. You can kind of tell, between something like, I don't even know, like Gears 5 looks really, really polished versus the sharpness is lacking in this Jedi Fallen Order. Again, it's very playable, but I expected a little more. I wanted I don't know what I wanted, but I wanted it to melt my eyeballs, and it doesn't melt my eyeballs. But it is a pretty good game.
So I'm gonna issue you one challenge. So,
right.
And this has nothing to do with its next gen nature, but so this is a 2018 game.
So.
Yeah, late 2018. I laid off of this game, and I watched a streamer friend of mine playing this a lot this week. I laid off of this game. So it was just one of those games that came out like at the very tail end of the year. Actually, it missed the VGA cutoffs the year that it came out, just like CyberPunk did this year. It was a much bigger controversy for whatever reason for the Fallen Order. I guess because people didn't understand about that whole cutoff date. I laid off of this game, and I'm a huge Titanfall 2 fan. I laid off of this game because near and dear to my heart are Jedi Knight. How do you say it? Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast 2,
Okay.
or Jedi Outcast, which is really like the second Kyle Katarn adventure, because the first was Dark Forces or whatever. And then Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and in particular Jedi Academy. Playing both of those games, they do a really excellent job of rendering the notion of being a Jedi Knight, I feel like, just as far as the athleticism and whatnot. And so, when this game came out, I was like, I don't see... and it uses, in many ways, so as far as I know, Jedi Knight uses the same engine as Jedi Outcast. And so the Jedi Knightism or that feeling is very similar across the two games. In Jedi Outcast, you play as a first-person shooter whenever you have a weapon armed, but then when you pull your lightsaber, you pop out to third-person view, which is pretty elegant. Both of those games. First of all, what was the last thing that came out that was?
Like Battlefront, or
No, it was the one where you were an evil Jedi. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember. I can't. They did two of them. Amazingly enough, like despite how kind of derpy the first one was, it was popular enough that a second one got greenlit. I can't remember the title of that game right off the top of my head for whatever reason right now. But those two games, as well as this one, I was just like, I just don't see, like, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy were such good games and did such a great job of rendering the notion of being a Jedi Knight that I just didn't see a game coming along and superseding those. Like, in both of those cases, I was like, this is probably less good gameplay just with a graphical veneer on top of it. So, did you play those games? And then watching Fallen Order this week, I was like, this is just Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. It's the same kinematics
right.
and feel to the engine. Like,
so I did play Jedi Academy, and I remember really enjoying it. However, when I play this game, I'm actually, I don't know that I'm actually experiencing the Jedi-ness that I experienced in those games. And I'd say I'm I don't know, like a couple upgrades in. I'm halfway through the skill tree on all three branches, So I would feel like I'd be a little more Jedi-ish at this point, and I'm not feeling it. Versus when I played the older Jedi games, I feel like you felt that right off the bat. Like you
well, those
were.
were this is one of the things that kind of, I don't necessarily say frustrates me, but like those were canon.
Right.
Like you had, it was a Skywalker tale. Those characters were in the Star Wars novels at the time. They didn't do this whole Disney thing of, well, we're ignoring like the 90-something novels that were written, and that's no longer canon, and so these stories exist in whatever Star Wars like. So I get it. I get that the game is good-ish.
Right.
It
is good-ish. It's a good game. Now, is it a good Star Wars game? Honestly, And I'm not a diehard Star Wars fan. However, I have played a lot of the other games. I even felt like Battlefront was more Star Wars-ish than this particular game. What this particular game does well, I think they picked the wrong actor first off to be the main protagonist. I don't like him. He is not likable. I've seen him in other things, IRL, and I just don't really like him.
I do like it more than Hayden Christensen though.
You
That was
do?
the one thing.
Okay.
That was the
Okay.
one thing I
And I
picked up
mean,
on this week.
I don't know that I like either of them, but I mean, so I have a problem with the choice of the main protagonist. Lawrence Fishburne comes in there, I believe, for a little bit as another supporting character. That's pretty cool. I was like, oh shit, hey. They even did his eye right and everything, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty neat. And I'm sure there's other people I'm missing or that I've failed to meet yet.
Oh wait, I think you mean Forrest Whitaker. And this
Oh
is
my
is
God!
this
Yes, yes.
Saul
Forrest Whitaker.
is this Saul
Thank you.
Guerrero who comes into the?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay, all
yes,
right,
yes.
gotcha.
Oh,
Yeah,
so,
yep.
yep. Lawrence, yes, yes, yes. Not Lawrence Fishburne. God damn it. That's for the Matrix video game that's coming. Uh, so he appears in there, which is pretty cool. And but I mean, his character is kind of stale too. The acting's okay. The voice acting's all right. The redeeming quality that I see is my relationship with my little robot. BB1 or some shit or whatever the fuck his name is. That's actually really well done, and the robot's cute, and you start kind of caring for the robot. Kind of neat. I like that. I'm a sap for that shit. Um, and oh, you just totally reminded me of a movie um with Saw Gerrera, Panic Room with Jodie Foster. Oh my god, that movie was awful. Anywho, not gonna go there. That was such a fucked up movie. Um, yeah, no, I don't know that I'm enjoying it as for a Star Wars game. I'm enjoying it as a game with a decent enough story, with some space opera drama in it. But I don't feel powerful, which I think is on purpose because you're kind of, honing your Jedi-ness. But by the time I feel like a Jedi, the game's gonna be over, and I don't know. Like maybe they'll come out with another one, but
And,
the whole
and,
origin story thing is eh.
and I think that's an interesting thing because I've always felt that that's a direct result of the two Star Wars games that came before, where you were just vastly overpowered.
Right,
Because they were
right.
trying to convey to you the power of the dark side, and so I feel like they reeled that back in so sharply
They
that
did,
I
they
could.
did, and you're underpowered, at most points in the game, and you really have to. And it kind of brings some tactics in. You gotta plan your attacks a little bit at least. I mean, you can still go in there and run and swing, your lightsaber. There's no shooting as of yet, at least, that I can see. It would be a weird mechanic to even be in there. So you're just hitting people and cutting people up with your lightsaber. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm actually gonna finish the game. So far, it's pretty decent. It has me wanting to know, kind of, hey, I've done this now. Will the Wookiees, what are the Wookiees gonna do for me, and so forth and so on. So, I can see the accolades that it got. I can see what people saw in it, but as it meshes and folds into feeling Star Wars ish, it's failing me. And this is as a pretty lukewarm fan, but I know what I want as a casual Star Wars person, and I think I'm probably most of the Star Wars audience, I'd say, because hardcores are pretty slim, honestly. I mean, most people are pretty casual, but I don't feel that in this game. So I mean, that's my remark on it, I guess.
And I think so Force Unleashed was the name that was the title that I couldn't
Okay.
remember. This was the game that came out, I think, in the 360
Haven't
era,
played that one. Yeah, no, I missed that one.
where you play a Sith apprentice or whatever. And yeah, and now I'm remembering too, because I just saw some of the stuff float across as I was looking it up. That one of the huge detractors with this is, and again, I played as a good guy when I played Jedi Academy. I think maybe at the end, I'm trying to remember if you had, your ultimate choice was to slay the perpetrator whenever you finally caught her at the end of the thing, but I don't think that. So I think I played as a good Jedi, and didn't succumb. You're right, because the way Jedi Academy worked, depending on what force powers you used and unlocked and what skill tree you went down, drove whether or not you were a good Jedi or were leaning towards the dark side. And so one of the disadvantages that you had to deal with is that if you played as a good Jedi, you would not get Force Lightning, which was just a bad arse power, right, to have. But I think the way I played it, I think I played a good Jedi all the way through and didn't succumb to the dark side. But at the end, I slew the villain once I found out who she was. And I think the way the ending you get then, I think, is you get a talk from Luke and or Kyle, which is basically, that you maintain your discipline, but slaying the end was you giving into anger, and they'll be keeping their eye on you from now on, or whatever. But one of the reasons I also laid off of this game is because they don't give you that choice. You as far as I understand, you don't have a choice to be good or dark.
Right. No,
game.
I don't feel like there is. I'm pretty sure you're just gonna be what you are, which to me is gonna be a good guy. So it's very linear in that aspect. It's the levels are pretty linear. I do notice that there are some areas that are cut off from you, and I'm assuming they want you to go back once you get different powers. That's the one thing that I've noticed. But other than that, yeah.
Well, yeah, watching the streams this week, the streamer I was watching, Hiccuping Boots, mentioned, because I asked some questions about the game, that there's a lot of backtracking on maps that they give you. Yeah. They give you maps and they want you to backtrack, or they want you to come back. Yeah, which I noticed that. Backtracking is not one of my things. Right? Yeah, Soldier of Fortune, Fortune by Activision just kind of. Like that game, I mean, classic first-person shooter design of like the very late '90s.
Soldier of Fortune.
I did too. Yeah, they made you backtrack. Yeah,
they made you backtrack, and that was simple backtracking. This is like get a bunch of powers and come back and figure out this fucking puzzle. I'm like, no, I don't even want to visit Zepro anymore. It's fucking ugly. I don't want to go back. So. I'm gonna do this mission. I want the fuck off this planet, and I want to go kill some more bad guys. So yeah, I'm not coming back. But it's funny. So I did notice that, and that's super obvious and almost kind of lazy, in the fact that it's also confusing. So I'm looking at a box, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can jump to that box. I can't fucking jump to that box, so I die. And I'm like, all right, great. That was totally worth restarting on a save point. And having to kill all the enemies again. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I've always viewed, and I really try and skew away from the notion that backtracking is lazy level design. But to be truthful, I've always felt that a little, and it's not so much that it's lazy level design, although it kind of sort of is. It's more so like, don't make me do that. Like, the level has served its purpose when I went through it the first time. There's no entertainment ROI for making me backtrack through it and do it in reverse, which is what Soldier of Fortune would make you do a lot of times. And I'm just just move on. Like, if you need to make the story shorter, make the story shorter.
I mean, in this case, a lot of your enemies are going to be back there again. So not only are you fucking backtracking, you're backtracking and killing a bunch of enemies that you already killed once.
Yeah, and then backtracking with the nonsensical respawn of like areas that you've already been through. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
No, I'm not doing it. But I mean, the good news is that I haven't been, it hasn't closed me off from anything yet. Although I'm sure that some of those areas might give me additional skill points or faster ways of doing things or different, achievements. But the main storyline is still completely accessible. Anywho.
Yeah, and it's, for all the shade that I've thrown at the game and ragged on it is on Game Pass. It is, if you've got Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play on Game Pass, you can play it for free. It's a worthwhile title to play for free.
I think it's definitely a worthwhile game to play if it's on Game Pass. And I actually waited it out. I didn't buy it because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. So again, Game Pass for the win. Was able to try it and be like, I'm glad I didn't spend $60 on it. Um, and of course, I've been grinding Destiny 2. And I do that. I try to do that maybe an hour a night. That's all I can do because otherwise I get kind of And I don't even know why I'm doing it. There's a couple quests.
Well, that's what, so. Give me this update. You know, we had a very long,
Oh,
lengthy discussion last time about
I
you
know.
falling
I'm
off of
still
this
doing it.
game and getting
I'm still
bored and
doing it.
not being down with the
Yeah, and I
grind.
am. I'm bored. I'm bored already. But so I'm like light level 223 or some shit, right? So I know that there's this one mission that I really want to fucking do, and I've gone in there and just got my ass creamed. And it's like light level 230. So I'm like, okay, all right, that's gonna be my goal. I want to do this mission. I will get to light level 230. And it's just been a grind, man. Like every little, all the, I try to do like, the three strikes, to get your powerful gear. So I do that. And then I try to do, like the, try to get XP so that I can get my season rewards, right? So I rack up all my quests, which you can do on your phone, by the way, now on the app, which is super cool. So I load up a ton of quests, and I like that. I like that. Ding, quest completed. Ding, whoa, 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 season pass level, and I'm like, oh, that's great, that's great. And I get a couple season passes a night, season pass levels a night, and I usually get, one or two powerful or a prime Ingram or something, and I get my light level up by like one or two. Apparently, that is not enough for me. I need more, and I don't know. I have needs, and Destiny just isn't giving me. I don't think it gives me what I need, but I still come back. It's like an abusive relationship that I have with Bungie and Destiny 2, and I don't
So,
hate it, but I don't, and I want to love it, but it beats me. It just
so,
beats me.
so there's. I read an interesting article this week about from I think an editor of Mashable or something that was talking about how much he enjoys video games, but like the things that she enjoys, they cross this threshold into becoming like, but becoming good at video games. Sometimes with certain titles crosses this threshold into becoming like work. So my
Right,
principal
right.
question is: are you having fun or are you working?
Yeah, is it an internet chore or is it work? My internet chores are doing my like Game Pass and Microsoft Rewards quests.
Okay.
Those I do, and I'm kind of like meh. They're not they're not always enjoyable, but I get points out of them, and then I buy stuff that I like. So I'm cool with
Right.
that.
Right.
Now, Destiny 2, I absolutely love. Now on the Series X, it feels so good, and I get in there and driving my pimped out sled feels great and smooth. Gunplay is so much fun, and it never gets tiring popping heads off of people. They got the sound effects right, the guns sound right. There's so much right to that game. I'm like, all right, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. But pretty soon, when I see the lack of my progress towards my goal that I initially had, I get, you know, just kind of depressed about it. I'm like, I'm never gonna get there. I'm never gonna get to 230. It's gonna be so many more nights of grinding, but I'm not hating it, right? So I'm in this middle zone where I'm still just like, I just wish that and I got the season pass, right? So that helps. I think that's a buffer, but I feel like some of the season pass stuff is shit. Like, I grind 20 levels, I get a bright Ingram, and I get some shit I already fucking have. Like, okay, great. I get a duplicate, so now I get bright dust that I don't use because I can't buy shit with bright dust anyway. And, maybe they need a little bit more for that casual base. And I wonder if that's why they have, those drop offs in players a lot of times, because only certain players go beyond a certain light level, and go beyond a certain gameplay time. And I wonder if they keep more people in there with more gimmicky bullshit. I hate to say it, but more Fortnite-esque bullshit. Their Game Pass to me is probably the lamest Game Pass. Game Battle Pass out of any battle pass I've ever had. Like Call of Duty seems to do the battle passes better. Fortnite has that shit down, even though I don't play it. yeah, the Destiny Battle Pass is just a little gimpy. Like they just okay, so they give you more, things to upgrade your gear. That's fucking great. They give you, but they don't ever really give you anything cool. They give you an occasional emblem or an occasional emote, but I don't know what the shaders are not exciting to me. The customization is ugh, like you don't get to really change your appearance. You look like a homeless space cadet regardless of what you pick. You never really look badass. That's another thing that bothered me. Like, when do I get to look fucking badass? Like, at what level? The other games just do that better. Like the armor doesn't have different. I know that when you played other MMOs like WoW or Rift or any of those, you could get to the point where you just looked badass. Like you'd see some character walking past and you're like, oh shit, I want that. Whatever that is, I want it, and here everybody just kind of looks the same. You play Crucible, everybody looks the same. You see all the other characters, it's all just a bleh, bleh of shaders and stupidity. The only thing that ever stands out to me are ships and the riders, the sleds. That's it. That's all I ever notice. Players just kind of blend in. So I don't know, man. I don't hate it. I have fun with the actual gameplay. I yearn for something more, and I wonder, they're in this long term, so I wonder if they're not thinking that over as well, and if obviously, now that they're not with Big Daddy Activision anymore, maybe we'll see some more changes to the player base like me that is kind of in between the people that don't play much at all and the people that just dedicate, all their time to this one game.
Yeah, man, just set aside that 8 to 10 hours one evening and play a raid.
No, no. I see. You shouldn't have to
No,
get
I
8 other
agree with
people
you.
to you know what I mean. And even then, I have played with players that have. So you get a cool gun. You get a cool gun. Fucking, I can't see your gun. I want you to look badass. I want you to float above me as a warlock, and I want to look at you and go, holy shit, that is amazing. And
What
not a single time I've seen that or
what
felt that in this game.
what I feel like would be effective is if and I know it's a tight tightrope fence to walk, but it would be nice if they could figure out something that was in between a strike and a raid.
Yeah.
Something
And I
something
think
that
they
took more.
tried that with the Nightfalls, right? But those are just like
Those are
super
just
tedious
and they're just
strikes.
savage. I mean, it's just like, yeah, it's just you
Yeah.
get your cheeks clapped all the time, and then
Yeah.
I
There's
mean,
been
if
one
you
Nightfall I think that I've actually been able to complete.
right, and if
And
you
when they
if you
first
go
came
into
out, it was
that,
awful.
yeah, if you go into that and you don't get people to come with you, that's a
Right.
problem. And if you get people who come in and don't do well and leave,
It's also a
then you're
problem.
screwed as well. Yeah, so
Yep.
yeah, it's
And
problematic.
so I mean I don't know, maybe they do need some sort of event or and on top of that maybe reconsider giving away more of your imaginary shit on your battle pass because it costs you nothing to give shit away. Make people want to get to that next level, and the level grinds are quite, you got to collect. It's a lot more than just Call of Duty where yeah, you get, you don't have to equip your shit. Like here I have to consciously go and pick out all these fucking bounties, right? To get enough XP to go. I can't just set out and start killing people and capping people. I mean, that would take even longer. So here I am. I'm consciously making an effort to level up, and I'm still getting kind of shitty rewards for it. Where Call of Duty, I go and I play a couple matches, and you get a couple levels. You're done. I mean, I didn't even need to equip anything. I could care less about the daily rewards. Those don't even factor into your. You could get through the Call of Duty battle pass pretty easily without ever even concentrating on what the dailies were or the here you have to go out and I got to hit 7 different people to get 24 different quests, and then I got to figure out which ones I need to do in what order with what gun and when they expire. And it's like there's some time and dedication into this shit that I'm already going above and beyond. Like, I'm an adult, dudes. I just want to get in there. I want to blast some shit, and I want some cool shit in my inbox. I want to hear, your mailbox is full and items will be deleted permanently soon. And I want to go in there and have a bunch of cool shit waiting for me that I have to sift through at the end of the night. And you don't really get that.
Yeah, I
And,
think
and maybe that's what bothers me.
I think the Destiny 2 problem is, and I think Destiny 2 is an excellent game. It's just the more time you spend in it, the more difficult it becomes to enjoy it. And so if you're, I'm not saying like you, but I know other gamers who I've been exposed to in Discords I no longer hang out in, but I know people go in and pump 1,000 hours into that game and then get bent out of shape. And I'm like, look, if it's like I tell my kids, like the pizza tastes great, right? But if you eat all the pizza,
Yeah,
right,
you might be sick.
right, so
And that's why Destiny has always been the game where I definitely binge for a little bit when new content comes out, because it's all new and sometimes they have a pretty decent story in there, and then it just becomes kind of my I got nothing else to play and that's fine and it fits that purpose. I always look at it and I'm like, God, it could be so much more for me if it hit, these notes.
well,
And what these notes are, I don't know.
Well,
But
I think they'd have to draw the game back in. I think part of the problem with Destiny 2 is they made the game so varied. I think part of their
right.
problem is they set out and in some ways chased a Borderland model a little too
Mm,
much, more so than a Call of Duty model. And
yep.
so, I mean, for all that we will say, and I don't disagree with you, but if we say Call of Duty does it better, I mean, but at the end of the day, all Call of Duty is giving you is gun porn. But
Yeah,
they
that's
did a
true.
really excellent job of laying that framework out, making it seem 99 miles wide, but it's all the same.
Hmm.
Like you
Yeah.
you unlock the exact same attachments across six like
Right,
primary
right,
weapon
right,
category. Like
right.
it's not right, but you feel rewarded as you unlock each one. But the problem with Destiny 2 is they threw like a massive amount of weapons at you from jump. Like
Right.
I mean to the point
Hmm.
where it becomes it you become largely numb to it, right? And
Yeah,
and I
you
be
kind of
I
do.
and I was numb to it in Borderlands as well. Like Borderlands 1, like there's so much gun porn. I just hit a point when I was going through that game. It's like I don't care what the next
Overload.
gun is. Like if it's more powerful, great. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what
Right. I
it's
won't even.
named. I
Right.
don't
I won't even
like
use it half the time because I don't even want to bother. Like, oh, this gun's fine.
well,
This
right.
gun's fine.
Like, what do you wind up with? Like 15 weapon slots, and like, I mean, you
Yep.
just, and they did a gradually better job with that as you go through Borderlands 2 and eventually Borderlands 3. But in a lot of ways, those models were contractionary. Like they went to Borderlands 2 and they said, let's not give them as much.
Hmm.
And I kind of feel like that's more kind of what Call of Duty is, and it's very difficult for a Destiny 2 to reel that back in after.
Yeah, and I don't think they can. I mean, it kind of made them, what they are, and I think there's a subsect of people that really do enjoy, what it is. But, I'm still part of those Destiny subreddits and so on, and there's a bunch of people that just bitch about it all the fucking time, and because they're not enjoying it, which I also say, go play another fucking game,
Well, right. I mean,
or go,
they gave you
yeah,
300 different sidearms from jump, and now people are
right,
like falling down a well because they're sunsetting weapons. I'm like, they gave
yeah,
you
yeah,
300, right?
or
Or
planets,
whatever the number
or.
is, right? Like I
Yep.
just it is it
Yeah,
is what it is.
it is what it is, and yeah, yeah. So I've been juggling between those two games. I'm kind of excited for I'm not gonna play much. I know Super Mario World is coming out. Another remaster that probably gets suckered into fucking buying. And then what I'm really excited for is I did play the demo of Little Nightmares 2, and I really enjoyed the first game. I played the DLC. It's creepy, it's weird. It's not a game that I'd usually play, but it hits a spot for me, and I really like it. So I'm excited for part two. I played the demo. It's probably 20 minutes long, and it's out there on PS5 and well every console really. It looks really good. I don't know if you've ever played that, but I did enjoy the first one. What are you playing these days, man?
So just before I hop over that, one question on Destiny
Yeah.
2, but help me out. So Destiny 2 is not Xbox Series X and S enhanced, is it?
It is.
Or is it? It is. Okay. All right.
It is. Yep.
Okay.
And it makes you move it to the fast drive, the internal.
Okay. Gotcha.
And yeah, it's been well done actually, and it looks.
Okay.
I mean, it was always a beautiful game, but now it's definitely in the realm of probably one of the best looking games on the next gen consoles right now, I think.
All right. I haven't loaded, but I loaded it in a flurry of other things that were going on, so I couldn't remember. So I have been playing. It's double XP weekend in Call of Duty Black Ops, and so I did not realize that until I started playing this weekend. I was like, I'm just gonna play, 4 times in the rotation before I skip to something else, and then it was like, then I went to use a token, and it was like, these tokens don't work when it's double XP weekend, and I was like,
that's awesome. I love
flip.
double
So
XP.
I was like, so I guess I'll be playing this all weekend. And then I looked it up, and it was like, oh, double XP weekend goes over the 3-day weekend and doesn't end until 10 a.m. on Tuesday. So I was like, well,
So
I guess that's
my
entire time. So
Nice.
I have been cranking away at that. I am Prestige 127 now, which is Prestige 3.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There are people above that. There are people I see 300s. I've seen 300s twice this weekend. I've seen 200s maybe 4 times. I think they are rare.
That's some dedication.
I see them maybe once every 5 to 10 rounds or matches. I also finally dug into it because I play Call of Duty Black Ops. I'm in this really weird fetish zone where for whatever reason I've been just plugging away at Call of Duty Black Ops since it released back in November. Excuse me. But usually even though I'm playing it, I don't pay that much attention to it outside of the game. To be quite honest, I don't pay a lot of attention to the specifics of a game outside of the game after it's already released. It's I read about a game up until it releases, and then after it releases, I'm like, if you expect me to learn anything about the game, it better be in the game, not on the internet somewhere. So I didn't realize that. So I had been trying to figure out how high Prestige went up. I'd seen in the message of the day they show you 4 different medals. And then once I went through the prestige levels, I thought it went up to about 200-ish because you flip prestige ranks, 1, 2, 3, and 4, every 50 regular levels. And so, for whatever reason, I'm at 1. So you go to prestige 2 at 50. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I went to prestige 3 at 100. So, but
you'll be Prestige 4 at 150?
150, right, yeah.
Nice.
But Prestige apparently goes up to 1,000. So now I'm playing the game and I'm like, so what am I doing this for? Because I'm never going to get up to that level. But, it is what it is. And then I had, I'd seen people mention and streamers mention that they were, grinding to get to diamond on different weapon categories. And I was like, well, I don't...
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's very interesting is, I think the top level optic for each weapon category is this holographic sight, which I was like, oh, well, that's really awesome. I'll, keep working until I get that. And then I finally got it on some weapons, but then I realized that the weapon was maxed. And I was like, well, I'm not playing a weapon once it's maxed. I'm trying to get them all maxed. So once a weapons category is maxed, I go on to another weapon category or another weapon. But didn't realize that there's this diamond thing, and I guess that's what they're talking about, which is in the weapons mastery category and goes beyond the weapon level thing once you've already mastered it. So there's yet another thing that Treyarch / Activision has put on top of your achievements that you gotta grind for. So it's fine. It's interesting, but yeah, I've been having a good time playing it. I have hit a point where, as I went through the whole evolution, I originally started just playing free for all, then added TDM to it, and then kind of in shorter succession, I've added additional modes to the game. So I think now I'm playing 8 different modes, which I
Nice.
find really interesting. Some of
Almost
them,
got the full playlist going.
maybe half. I mean, there's like a just ridiculous number of modes to it. But I've added, of course, in the mid-season drop, they added this game mode called Dropkick, which is a little bit, to me, like a game of football or like a money in the bag mode.
Okay, yeah.
So I added that. I've added Domination, which historically I have had a disdain for, but for whatever reason now I'm
liking it?
coming back into it. Yeah, I'm getting there. I don't think I like it as much as Hardpoint.
Right.
But
I think I don't either.
yeah, but I've added so Dropkick, Domination, Hardpoint, VIP Escort, which it took me a while to
Oh.
get down, but I'm understanding that game mode a little bit more now. And then the one I added tonight, I think I'm struggling to remember the name. I mean, I've never particularly cared for these mosh pit modes, but now I also think I realized tonight that I'm supposed to stay with the team more than just the first round. So I feel bad that I'm like, I was like,
Nice.
well, that's weird. I keep getting into this mode and it's always domination the first round. I was like, oh, that's because I'm supposed to stay for the other two. So apparently you go through, and they're gosh, I can't remember the name of this mode, but it's a mode that is 3v3 on the gunfight maps, because I have been
Okay,
wanting to get into
yeah.
gunfight, but I don't really want to get into gunfight where it's just 2v2 because I'm not
Right.
on comms, and so but 3v3 it's a little more diluted, and that feels reasonable. So I've been playing this mode 3v3 on the gunfight maps. I've only played in the first round because I didn't know any better, and played Domination. So I've played that a few times. They are savage rounds. Like, you are constantly at it. The first one I played on Game Show, which is a little more spread out. The second one I played on KGB, and I mean, when you spawn, depending on what type of scope you have on your, when you spawn, you can see the other dude. Like at the end, like the map is so small. Like you spawn and like you and the dude are like right there. So it's very interesting. It's also just it exercises those different tactics that you apply on different maps with different sizes, and where the symmetry of the objectives are very different. I've been pounding out a ton of daily challenges, so whereas that had kind of been a thing that was there, but I had kind of ignored. And then even when I started, they can. It's again, it's neat just to give you. Well, first of all, it grants you extra XP, so it helps you, level up through battle pass levels and whatnot, and weapon levels. But and they're not things like a lot of people, will run around and try to do that thing. And I'm just like, I'm just going to arm them, and they should just naturally happen, right? It's kind of like the difference between an achievement hunter and an achievement appreciator on Xbox, right? Like, there are people who do things to get their achievements, and I'm just like, well, I just acknowledge the achievements, and they should just naturally happen. I'm not going to change my gameplay to go after them. But that's been great too, because it's also now put more maps into the rotation. So I've been really enjoying, the various different modes. Yeah, I've been having a good time. I've also been playing World of Warships, which I think I might have mentioned last time. So I had finished the tail end of that. Getting up into the higher tiers with some of the ships into tier 5, tier 6. So it's a good break from Call of Duty, which kind of wreaks havoc on like my finger joints and whatnot.
Yeah, it does.
Spent time with that controller that I've been reviewing, the Thrustmaster eSwap X Pro.
What's your final verdict on the?
Well, first of all, I'm keeping it. So I hit that point about maybe midway through the review. This had been a thing that I was like, I had ordered it, I was going to review it and then return it. And then, I finally went through the effort of actually starting to like modify it and change around some of the configuration. So, and now I'm looking at comparing it to the Xbox Elite Controller Series 2, which also, sad to say, is a controller that I've had for about 6 months that I've really never done anything with. Like, I've played with it, but I hadn't changed the keycaps, I hadn't changed the deep, all the stuff that it does, I hadn't really taken advantage of. So I changed on the Thrustmaster eSwap X Pro, I changed the analog sticks over to the concave analog sticks, which I actually prefer, because they're short. I prefer taller analog sticks in general, so my fingers aren't so cramped down on tiny analog sticks. So they're not tall caps, but the concave nature of the cap itself gives it that extra height. The eSwap Pro X has 2 concave analog sticks in the box. The Xbox Elite Controller Series 2 only has 1. So it's a shorter concave analog stick, but on top of that, it only has 1 in there. So it's a little weird, although it works out fine. So I have on the Series 2, I have 1 concave stick. They give you then 1 tall analog stick in the box, but it's convex. So it has like a little dimple in it, like the controller does behind you. And so I have the short concave stick and the tall convex stick. I think I'm saying that right. I might have it backwards. And that is okay. It's a little different. I prefer what Thrustmaster does, where they just give you 2 in the box. But I played with that controller, changed those things around. I moved on both controllers, I moved the pull distance on the triggers differently to kind of make them hair triggers, which worked really well in Call of Duty. On the Thrustmaster, you can manually set them. There's like a little dip switch, basically, that you pull them into the down position, move the dip switch, and then release them, and then it sets
and that's how far it goes.
The maximum distance. The really interesting thing about the Thrustmaster, and I think maybe this was the tip-over point where I decided that I was going to keep it, is it has an app, and I knew that it had an app, and the app, of course, works in Windows. What I didn't realize is that app has also... So whether it's because the Xbox sharing the Windows kernel is now, and DirectX is now so tight that it really just doesn't make a difference. Maybe there was no extra work for Thrustmaster, but that app is deployed to the Microsoft Store to where you can pull it down on the Xbox.
Really? Okay, yeah. That's cool.
And so I pulled down the Thrustmaster mapper software onto my Xbox Series S. Made some minor configurations there. One of the things was I removed, because it default maps functions onto the 4 buttons on the underside of the controller. Yep. And so I took those off so I wouldn't mistakenly hit the buttons on the back. But I also, when I mechanically configured the triggers, I also took the pull detection distance, which is default set to, I think, like 30 to 70 or 20 to 80. So it gives you a dead zone in that first like 10 to 20% of pull, and I blew that out to 100%. So those triggers on the Thrustmaster, the total distance that I move them is incredibly small. It's a couple of millimeters. But then I also made it super sensitive. So the end result of that is it works better in Call of Duty overall. It's kind of funny, though, because pretty much every time I spawn in Call of Duty when I'm using that controller, I immediately pop a round off because just brushing the trigger sets it off. But of course on the Series 2, like I said, I swapped the sticks out. I took the levers off of the bottom, which the Series 2 comes with a little tool in there, which I had always thought was a pry tool. And so I never messed with it because I was like, I'm not going to get this tool in there and try and pry these things off and blah, 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 blah. The levers just pull off the bottom.
They do.
You don't need any tool. The analog sticks, of course, switch out magnetically, so that's super elegant. You don't have those on the Thrustmaster one, so that might be a thing for people. It might not. What I noticed was with the 2 different level analog sticks, because they're 2 different heights, it does make it neat that you can kind of swap them mid-game with no problem. The Thrustmaster ones you have to screw off, so depending on when you do that, might be an issue. But I did it on the Series 2 controller, like in the middle of like a loading screen, like before a match got started. So, and had them back on in time to start the match. So it was
I
no
definitely
problem.
feel like the Elite Series is. I don't think most people use half of what is offered on any of these controllers. I have the Elite Series 1, which still had the magnetic, back trigger buttons and the swappable sticks. I don't think I've changed anything. So what I did is I tore off the two lower buttons, and I actually used those big triggers for the top, and that's how I play. And I do use usually I'm right-handed, so the only extra button I use, if it comes in handy, is I use that back trigger that I can press with kind of like my ring finger for certain actions. Usually it's a slide function, like in Call of Duty, so I can slide and keep my finger on the trigger, or slide and do whatever else I need to do. It's always like a slide or a dash or some sort of acrobatic shit in games. But otherwise, I don't use anything. I've used the trigger. The hair trigger, adjustments on the Elite, and I don't know if the 2 has a different mechanism, but they were physical on the Elite Series 1. They were just little dip switches.
Yeah, the 2 is the same way. You have
Same way.
3 switches on the back. So like the plus to the Thrustmaster is it has a switch so you can set that throw distance however you want.
Whatever you want, right?
On the Series 2, it's one of 3 settings, which are relatively fine. Like that.
Sure.
That degree of tolerance isn't so great that it really makes that big a difference. The other thing I did, and again, it's also magnetic, is I changed out the D-pad. So it default has like the full, what I call the flower head D-pad, like the new Series S controllers do.
Yeah.
Which originally I assumed that I liked better, but I actually, now that I've had that new controller for a while, I actually prefer just the 4-point.
I prefer the 4-point as well. I was actually reaching for my damn controller. So I was gonna show you. Yeah, so I don't have. I got the 4-pointer. I took that one out. I didn't like the other one, and then all I have on the back is these two, and that's it. That's all I use for that. So I feel like I paid a lot for nothing. It's heavier. It feels a little nicer, but I still get drift on it. After playing for within the first 6 months, I probably got drift. I mean, I really don't. I don't think I'll be paying full price for a Elite controller anytime soon again, until Microsoft warranties them for at least 2 years, because that shit's ridiculous. And I think your Thrustmaster has a better warranty, I believe, and I think that's always big for me, because these things just always fucking break, and I hate paying that much money and not having any sort of confidence that after 90 days, which is what the Elite controller warranty is, that I have no recourse, if something goes wrong with it.
Gotcha. And the last thing I'll mention that I did is I actually use that tool that comes with the Series 2 is actually used to set the amount of resistance that there is on the analog sticks, which is pretty dope.
Ooh,
so
nice.
actually I cranked mine all the way up, it's basically the equivalent of cranking your DPI down on a gaming mouse, so that you are more accurate and more precise.
For sniping or
So that has worked. So that works really well. So with both of the controllers, I've had a ton of fun just messing around with them, getting a ton of more value out of them. From doing that. So yeah, pretty.
So now
pretty cool.
you're totally gonna drop keyboard and mouse, and you're gonna be strictly Thrustmaster controller.
Well, that's the thing too. Is as good as that is, it doesn't compare to keyboard and mouse. And so I spent 4 sessions with the Thrustmaster, and then a 5th session with the Elite Controller Series 2. I've got the Elite Controller Series 2 base station over here, because I'm going to use it to play Halo, the Master Chief Collection here later this week on one of my gaming laptops. But no, I use those for the first part of the weekend, but about Saturday night, I think I switched back to keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, there's something to be said for keyboard and mouse, man. And with that, the great keyboard and mouse will both segue into our WayBack Machine. I think it's time. It's time. And we're gonna go well, not too far back, back before the year where everything hit the fan, March 2019. And let's are we cueing music, or are we just winging it?
No, we're just waiting. I don't have the
All
soundboards
right, all right,
configured
all
over here
right.
this week.
All right, just making sure. So I'll start off. I was super excited in March, and I was like, "Oh my God, yes! I have pre-ordered the Dark Zone edition of the Division 2." And I was so excited. And the game came, and I got the digital Dark Zone edition, which was super neat, and I think is a great idea for future, collector's editions. I got everything of a normal physical collection, except it was a digital code. So I was able to preload my game, play at whatever release date, and then the next day or whatever get that the case in, because collector's editions are notorious for being late. I mean, you never want to count on getting a collector's edition on day of if you're getting it shipped. Anyway, got Dark Zone 2, I'm sorry, Division 2, Dark Zone Edition, and I was super pumped because I pumped so many hours, so many days into the Division 1. And there was something magical about the Dark Zone. There was something magical about the story. There was something great about playing with all my friends when I had friends. And I still have friends. We just haven't come to a consensus on playing anything. But all of us really got drawn to the Division. It was something about New York City being so bleak and amazing, and just society crumbling, and it was really cool. And Division 2 completely disappointed me in ways I could never imagine. So I not that I hate the game. I did invest some time into it, but I'd say I played a quarter of the time that I played, the original Division. They completely neutered the Dark Zone. The Dark Zones were smaller. They were different. They didn't have that I don't know, that feel, and I was pretty disappointed, even though I was excited. I mean, I was deep into the Division. I read the books, I read the comics, I read the fan made shit. I mean, I was into it. I played the betas. My wife was into it. We both played, day in, day out. We come home and get psyched to play this game, and maybe it was a sequel. Sequels are sequels. Sequels are hard to do, but the Division 2 was what I was playing in March, and I played it for probably, I'd say, a month, until it just ran kind of stale. The story wasn't as good. The immersion wasn't quite there. The setting just didn't do it like New York did in the bitter cold snow and snowstorms. It was DC, and it was sunny and green and shit. And I don't know, man. There was a lot of different. Although there's a lot of differences. Although I still love the statue of that collector's edition. It was definitely awesome. So I don't regret, getting it and being hyped for it. I even read another book by the same author of the first survival guide, and that was disappointing too, because it just didn't do it for me. So there was something organic about that Division 1 experience, with being Massive's first really big project with Ubisoft, and then this author came out with this survival guide that also followed the timeline of one of the characters in the Division, and you got to read all these notes, and then there was puzzle pieces that pointed you to in-game locations, and all this just kind of cool stuff that was just gone. The Division 2 just kind of was. I felt like they slapped it together, put it out there, and said, "Hey, the Division 1 had a lot of people playing it. Let's go ahead and just fucking slap some shit together, make some improvements, and release it again." And it just didn't work. Player dropped. The player drop off was pretty fast in that one, and nobody that I knew was interested in it for more than probably more than a month. So that was my sad, good, bad news on March 2019. But I was pretty psyched for that day and time. What were you playing, man?
So I'm gonna take a different position from you
Okay.
on the Division 2. I actually
Okay.
think it has performed pretty well. I think the Division. So I've got it backwards from your perception, and that probably has a lot to do with just the way we came at the games and the way we played them differently. My problem with the Division was I felt like it was much more tightly coupled in its design of keeping friends together at similar levels. And so, in much the same way that a lot of my friends did with Destiny, again, I'm not the type of person who tends to dump 1,000 hours into any one title because I'm trying to get around and play a lot of different things for the podcast and reviews and whatnot. So I had a lot of friends who bought the Division, stayed on that game, raced through levels, and then when I would try and play with them, I was like too low a level, and I'm like, well, this like they would take all the kills, right? And I'm like, well,
Sure.
and like run through the story and spoil everything, and I'm like, well, that's so you guys go ahead. I'll so actually for me, I did what you did with the Division 2. I had the Division for Xbox. I played it for a very short amount of time. I put it away. As I read the news cycle, I felt that the player drop off on the Division was sharp, but then in Destiny 2 like fashion, or in Destiny fashion, when Destiny released the Taken King, players came back, and I felt like they did that with the Division 2 about that final year before the Division 2 was going to come out.
Right.
I feel like the Division 2 has been much more faithful and deterministic about releasing, seasons and additional content and having a roadmap and everything being clear. And I still play the Division 2 to this day, whereas I played the Division 1 for about a month and then put it away. So
that's funny. That's funny. I mean, it is a lot of how I went into it. I was pre-hyped for the original Division. I'm a big post-apocalyptic fan. This just hit all the right points, and I think I might have just got what there was to get out of it story-wise, for me in the
sounds
first
like
one.
Sounds like you got cyberpunked.
I might have indeed got cyberpunk. Oh man, we are going to talk about that again. We're going to talk, but you still have to tell me what the fuck you were playing in March.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Just, my last thing on the Division 2, though, I also give the Division 2 huge props, in my opinion, for having the best introduction best start of any game that I've ever played, which is literally within 30 seconds of starting that game, they put a gun in your hand and they set you to work. And they don't baby you and put you on a pacifier and take you through endless tutorials and stop action you, put the game in pause every 30 seconds. I mean, they give you a gun and you're in a firefight, and that's it. You just take off and go from there.
If I recall correctly, they didn't baby you too much, but I think in the Division 1, you created your character and you started off just kind of running down the street, which was fine with me. But, I think you do make it to a safe house. So I did like that it was just, man, you were in the shit right in the Division 2. And that, I mean, I'm going to 100% agree with you. I did not dislike the game. It was just, God, I don't know. It didn't do it. It didn't do it for my wife. It didn't do it for the friends that I played the original Division with, and that's very anecdotal. But the group of, about 8 or 9 of us were just like, meh. And maybe it is because we spent 1,000 fucking hours. I think my playtime is 28 days in the Division. So there it is. And the Division 2 is probably about 6 days. So yeah, that I am biased.
Well, so in March of 2019, as most people probably know who have watched any of my podcasts or whatever, I picked up MLB the Show 19. It always surprises me, not always, but I guess maybe when I picked up MLB 2018 was the point where I finally realized, whoa, wait a second, I buy this game every year. So I bought it on the PS4, and I don't think I wasn't an MLB the Show player on the PlayStation 3. I think the first time maybe I picked it up was on the PlayStation Portable in the mini version, but but I picked up MLB the Show 2019. I pretty much play each iteration of it every year. 2019 kind of hit the sweet spot for me. 2020, there are some negative points on that where I don't enjoy that game quite as much as I did 2019. They changed some of the stuff on the pitching and changed the default on the pitching to where it just doesn't feel quite the same as 2019 did. So I'd probably say 2019 was maybe the pinnacle of my time with the show series. And I still have it, I guess I don't have it loaded on the PlayStation 5, so, but I'll probably eventually get back to playing around with that. But it's a franchise series that I enjoy. It'll be interesting to see what other platforms it goes to. Of course, last year they signed Sony signed a deal that said that they were no longer keeping how do I want to say this? They're no longer keeping the MLB license and the show exclusive to the PlayStation, so it may wind up on PC, it may wind up on Xbox. We'll see how it goes.
Are you a baseball fan? Do you
I'm
watch
not.
baseball? You're not. Okay.
One of the very weird things with me.
Why the fuck do you play this game?
One of the very weird things with me is there's probably one of two cases. But definitely overall, I often play games that I can't stand. Games that I can't stand watching, I often play the video game version of them.
Okay.
I'm not able I can't I'm not gonna watch golf. I don't.
Yeah, no, I would never watch golf.
But I enjoy playing the video game version of golf, and I've played several PGA games over time.
Sure.
Last year, or maybe 2 years ago, with the Nintendo Switch, FIFA 18 was the first soccer video game that I ever bought.
Yeah.
I've
Did you enjoy that?
I did. I buy FIFA now every year.
Nice. I used to like FIFA. I used to like FIFA. Yeah. I play soccer casually occasionally, but I'd never watch soccer. But you're right. I'd never watch hockey, and I'd play hockey games. So yeah.
Same thing. I will watch minor league hockey, but I don't watch professional hockey. I don't like watching heavyweight bouts on ice and paying to see that rather than an actual hockey game. But same thing. I buy the NHL series almost. Well, now since the NHL series has come back to its level of quality, I've bought the NHL series the last couple of years. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Surprisingly,
go ahead.
Surprisingly, I used to be a football fan. And I cut that out just for time, but that's probably the one sport that I do actually like. Don't buy Madden.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You still watch games? I mean, you used to watch games.
No, just because I'm a little OCD about math, and so I did the same thing with sodas when I was in college. This is a strange, interesting story. So in college, I made about $50 a month, and for caffeine, I was drinking sodas. And one day, first semester, freshman year, I did the math on what the percentage was that I was spending on sodas out of my total pay. And when I realized what that percentage was, I was like, I'm not drinking sodas anymore. So, for years, I didn't drink sodas. And in similar vein, I loved football. I was totally into NFL football. All through college, all through the first years out of college, I watched, the only thing, I didn't watch Thursday night and I didn't watch Sunday night football on ESPN, but anything that was on the network, I was totally into the news cycle. I tracked football kind of like I track video games now. Totally into the news cycle.
Football too?
I didn't do that so much just because that was a huge time sink, but one day I did the math and I realized how much of my life I expended watching football on a weekly basis, and after that, I started watching Formula One racing, because Formula One races always cap at 2 hours, no matter what. Yeah. And they always cap at 2 hours from start time. And so if there's a rain delay on a Formula One race, say the race is supposed to start at 10 a.m., and there's a rain delay, and it doesn't start till 10:32, that race ends at noon.
Oh, nice.
No matter what, right? They just
so you know when it stops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I took that time and I play video games now.
And I've noticed that a lot of people do transition from. I've seen people actually. One of my coworkers really likes his football, but again, he's got so much shit to do that he doesn't have the time to sit down and dedicate sometimes 6 hours, to a football game. So he listens to it like a podcast, because they still announce football games on the radio, and I thought that was pretty ingenious. And he says that the announcers can be, depending on who announces, can be so good that you're basically there. You can visualize everything that they're doing without actually, while mowing the lawn or while building his shed or whatever it is.
So I know it's a segue from video games, but yeah, living on the West Coast broke me because I was still single and I was still partying, and so I would often be out raging on a Friday or Saturday night, partying, and then would get back on Sunday morning and would be trying to get up for 9 a.m. football on a Sunday morning, and I was just like, "That's no,
hungover.
I'm done." I hung up my NFL watching shoes, and I was like, "Oh, let me check out that Formula One racing thing."
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. What may or may have not sounded good, depending on your opinion, is the apology by our friends at CD Project Red that came out, and I believe it was one of the head honchos, basically a very long video about. Their first real video, I guess, about the fiasco of the the issues with the launch, the issues with the bugs. They gave you kind of an in-depth-ish view on what happened up until now with CyberPunk, and I did watch most of the video. I think I skimmed through some of the parts, but overall, I thought the video was well done. I thought I don't know. I cannot judge sincerity of people any longer. I've realized this. I'm wrong all the time. They obviously are hurting from this fallout, but what do you think? And have you watched the video, first off? And, let's open up this discussion. How do you feel about this video? Was it something they should have done? Was it something that maybe they shouldn't have done? Did it make it worse? I've seen so many varying degrees of differences on Twitter, and good points. Good points. I even saw a counter video that was 40 minutes long. That was just devastating. Every bad shot, every bad angle was in there. And I watched some of that too. So yeah. On to you, man. How do you feel about this? We're what, a month and a half after launch, and here we are.
Yeah. So I guess first thing I'd say is, unlike probably most gamers who view this from an angle of toxicity and I would contend a lack of understanding, I view this from a business angle, from a person who's also responsible for running large functions in a business, is also responsible for very large software development projects, and so to me. First of all, I've just come over the last couple of weeks to kind of settle on this thing where Twitter is no longer a valid dialogue crucible. I take whatever is mentioned on Twitter and I throw it out with the garbage because it's just a centrifuge of hate. And so whatever people say on there and Schreier's on there and whatever. So, and that's part of this mix too. So my personal feeling is I take the CDPR apology and I stack it next to the Blizzard apology and the Bethesda apology. Let's take that third one first. There was never a third one. As far as I know and have perceived, Todd Howard has never apologized for Fallout 76. He has said, we tried to do a thing, it didn't turn out as well as we thought it would. Please try Fallout 76 again. Right? There's never been an apology, as far as I can tell. Blizzard came out and tried to apologize and also tried to explain things, and I don't doubt its sincerity, but it was just very deadpan.
Yeah,
And like,
it was.
I was like, I don't, and I get it. Now, by the same token, I don't necessarily feel that Blizzard owed anybody an apology. I felt that, this is again kind of along where I put it in the same bucket as I put, when again, I throw the opinions of 90% of Twitter users out with the bathwater. But for instance, an analog in a conversation that typically goes on is, Twitter, kicks some people off or mutes some people's accounts or whatever, and people go, oh, free speech. And I'm like, hold on a second. Free speech is a topic of citizens against the in their relationship with the government or the Constitution. A business that is privately owned has the right to lock down conversations on a platform that they pay for. Right? That is not a matter of the Constitution or free speech. So, in a lot of ways, I felt the same way about the Blizzard situation. I didn't feel like they owed any apology. So in those aspects, just putting them against those two things, I feel like the CDPR CEO came out and just said, "Look, this is our mistake, my mistake. I own it." Right? And to be quite honest, everything else that he said, which I'm sure on Twitter people have picked apart and people tried to say plus, minus, good, bad, whatever. Like, it's not, again, it's not a football game, right? The guy's not the head coach of an NFL team. You're not deciding to fire him or whatever. So I'm like, the key statement that he made was, this is our mistake and I take ownership of that. I'm owning that. That is all, as far as I'm concerned, that's open to anyone else's opinion.
Right.
My other take on it is this, this yet again another article by Jason Schreier, where he's like,
Tell me how much you love Jason Schreier.
The guy, I don't want to insult his character. Here's my problem with what Schreier does, and with the way that Schreier's content is consumed or the way it plays, is that. And I saw a bit of the dialogue that was written up between one of the CDPR leads and Schreier, and I absolutely side with the lead, as I sided with BioWare in a lot of cases, and that's, you interviewed 20 people. God, like what I hate and despise about what he does is he doesn't paint the reality, and in fact he uses people's ignorance to overinflate the value of his article.
Yes.
People who understand how the gaming industry works and how software development works understand that the people that he's talked to, like this is what happens on a software development project, a gaming project in particular, but any software development project, is you're a company that's of a certain size. You have a core number of developers that are permanent long-term employees, that are salaried, that you pay benefits and life insurance and health insurance for. That's some percentage of your development team. The rest of your development team are contractors. A lot of them come from staffing agencies and agents that they come through. You don't pay life insurance and benefits for them. They're not burdened into your overhead pool. They're not funded. They don't work on indirect. They are funded and work on that project. And when that project is over, or quite honestly at different stages throughout the life cycle of the project, those people are sent away. And they go do something else. And a lot of developers like that life. A lot of developers deliberately, or for a period of their life, don't become salaried permanent employees of a company. They float from project to project to project. Because that gives them their freedom, that gives them their flexibility. Kind of like, who is it? Was it Pacino? I can't remember. I can never keep Pacino and De Niro straight in Heat. But it's whoever says, never get involved in anything that you can't walk away from in 30 seconds or less, right? It's like a consultant, right? They're not permanently entrenched or right. So my point is, people who are permanent salaried employees at a company don't talk to a Schreier or an interviewer like that who comes along, because they're career employees there. If their bosses find out that it's them, then they're gone, right? The people Schreier is talking to is he's talking to these contract short-term employees who come on and walk onto a project, who aren't permanent employees, and float from development house, right?
They don't give a fuck.
Exactly. The reason he's able to talk to them is because they've moved on from the project. In most cases, they're no longer employees at that shop, right? And on top of that, I'm sure that they've signed NDAs and they're still not supposed to talk anyway, right? So this is what my problem is, that the evidence that's presented is corroborated from interviews, hearsay, with non-permanent employees who have moved on from a project and were there. For all Schreier knows, that person, because let me tell you, from a person who has run development projects like this, who brings on temporary labor and then sees them go away. One of the reasons you bring on temporary labor is because you don't want to pay them benefits and because you're not assured of their performance. And so a lot of these people will come on and spend a short time on the project and then will be told, we don't want that person here because they're not a high performer. So for all we know, right, some number of these 20 people that were interviewed by Schreier were only there long enough to be recognized as a low performer and to be sent away.
Yeah,
right?
don't know.
And so their evidence, like the evidence of any of them, I would contend, is highly anecdotal, right? And so this set of interviews is used to paint this whole story, right? Look, does anybody who's a contract employee ever going to speak positively of management and leadership at any house? It's a 70% likelihood that they're going to speak negative of them because that management sent that person away, right? That management didn't hire that person to become a permanent employee. So it's a story. It's a bunch of evidence that was corroborated from a highly suspect statistical data pool, right? Is my whole point. Yep. And so, but of course, Schreier takes these interviews, paints this story of mismanagement. And I'm not saying that there wasn't mismanagement. I'm just saying that the story skewed. And then I saw him fire back at the executive or the team lead who spoke to him and said, well, I find it interesting that, we asked you for comment and you didn't, choose to participate in the interview, but you have all these things to say now. Don't be a freaking idiot, right? Are executives or leads from any company going to talk to the media? Right? No, because it's highly likely that you're going to twist it and take it out of context. Let me say another thing that's very specific to the engineering industry, software industry. And this is what I've contended about Schreier and his articles ever since he interviewed the developers who were at BioWare during Anthem. You are not a software developer. For all your, and it frustrates me to no end, for all of his claims of credibility, he is not a software developer. He has not worked in the industry. He has not been a software development lead. He has not been a software manager. He has not, as far as I know, been a programmer or a coder. So here's my problem. And this is the same thing that I say to, quite frankly, there are certain points where sometimes, even in a business relationship, you get to a point where you say this to people. Definitely a thing that I say to coworkers, right, who are not software developers. Like, at a certain point, I am not going to have a conversation with you about how I manage or lead my team. You are not an engineer. You're not a software developer. You're whatever. You're in marketing. You're in contracts. You're in whatever. Right? At a certain point, I have a threshold where I am not going to have a conversation with you about how I do my job, right? If you want to give me a data point or have an interface with me about your particular domain or where our domains integrate, that's fine. But you as a journalist don't know, understand, aren't educated, aren't trained in my field of expertise. You and I are not having that conversation because you don't understand. Number one, you don't understand all the dynamics. But number two, you don't have my accountability or my responsibility, right? I have to answer for that, and it's not that.
That would just be bad news, man.
Yeah,
it's just going to turn out to be bad news.
Exactly, and it's not that I'm trying to be secretive or I'm trying to keep something from you. It's that it is impossible for me to convey to you, even in a 1-hour interview, right? 20 plus years of experience, both academic, on the job training, professional training, right? It's impossible for me to convey that experience succinctly in a verbal interview, in an oral interview, right? And have assurances that you're going to get it right before you go out and convey it to other people who know even less than you do,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So my way of making sure, first of all, I mean, largely it's just not a productive use of my time, right? You know, if an employee comes to me to have that conversation, I'm going to sit down and take the time to have that conversation with that employee. If another professional in a similar field comes to me and have the conversation, I'm going to sit down because that's worth my time. Having that conversation with somebody who's not in that professional domain just isn't worthwhile. So again, you know, I tried to give it, and these Schreier articles, you know, I tried to give them their 10 minutes of my attention, but you know, through all the, you know, time of like crunch and, you know, this was mismanaged. And look, I'm not even necessarily saying that he's not correct in that they're mismanaged, but I definitely take umbrage to the way he characterizes them and doesn't take into account all of the dynamics that are pertinent, and leaves gaps wide enough to drive a semi truck through,
Yeah.
right? And this is why I say that they're misconstrued. Now, how could Schreier's articles become a little more credible? He could maybe pair himself with a consultant, right? A co-authored article from him with a software development professional, I would give a little more credence to. But, you know, wood shop, garage shop level articles like that don't have any validity to
I've
me.
seen, I saw that article. I actually, I thought I had basically the same thoughts that you did on that. Where I mean, he's in it for the clicks, he's in it for the money. That's obvious. Reading the headlines, reading how he comes into these things. What's funny is I've also seen a shift from him in the last 5 years or so, 3 years. I actually really enjoyed his 2017 book, which was like Blood, Sweat, and Pixels or something. That was actually a decent book. And I think most of it was because he was actually interviewing some of these devs that were employees, so it wasn't all doom and gloom. It was a good synopsis to me of the trials and tribulations that you go through during game development, not this clickbait, oh my god, the world is burning bullshit. There was actual triumphant moments. There were moments when Big Daddy, no, I vividly remember a moment in the book where it was like Big Daddy Microsoft came in, saw these guys as product for the original Halo Wars that was called something else entirely, and basically said, oh, we really, really love this product, and it looks really good. Make it Halo, and they're like, fuck. It's not Halo. Those moments are a good synopsis of what I believe game devs do go through, especially when they get acquired by a Microsoft or, whatever. But yes, his articles recently and his demeanor has been this kind of like, I'm a badass of the industry, and I go in and I'm the fucking, like How to Catch a Predator dude. He's like, he thinks he's How to Catch a game dev or some shit. I don't even understand. It's not becoming of him. It obviously works, and he's probably raking in the dough. So whatevs. The video I watched was actually a super like negative, anti-cyberpunk video, but boy, some of the screen captures of these gameplay on some of the original consoles, was awful to watch. I was like, holy shit. I'm glad I was playing it on, something a little beefier. But yes, it did come out rough. They did apologize. It is on sale for like $30 everywhere right now. So if you're on the fence, go get it. I'm still kind of upset that I haven't touched it in like a month, and I paid full price for it. But that's okay. I've made worse decisions in my life. But yeah, no, the cyberpunk thing, I've never seen such fallout, and I hope. I don't know what to think about this because it's gonna set some sort of precedent, and I don't know if it's gonna be a good thing or a bad thing at this point, because I do want games to come out that are complete and playable. but I also don't want devs sitting on games forever, and never releasing them because they're never going to be good enough, or they might be sued, or they're, the insoles are going to launch rockets from their basements towards the headquarters or protest us or some shit, because that's also dangerous too, right? I mean, the shit is not ever going to be perfect, like Fallout, like, Anthem, but I don't want the consumers to get taken advantage of. There is a middle ground here, I think, but I doubt that the world and humans are capable of reaching it.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, my feeling is that it's not. I personally feel like it's unfair to put all of it on the devs, and that's going to sound a little strange to people, but I think this is a cultural ecosystem problem where there's got to be some give from multiple sides. You know, I personally think, to talk about the devs, like the developers, and I get it, like they're in this weird thing where they're kind of sort of the entertainment industry, but the discipline of what they do is very, to me, I mean, it's partially creative, but it's also governed by these things that I associate a little bit more with like type A personality kind of stuff. I don't know of a better way to describe that. So on the devs part, here's my personal feeling: you guys should stop talking so much.
Yeah.
Part of the problem, I believe, is, to put it on them, is this aspirational vector to treat it like an entertainment industry and like you guys are rock stars. And I get it; it's enjoyable. It's a lovely thing for people to consume your stuff, right? To kind of be kind of like a writer or an artist or a singer or whatever. But in order to, but here's the problem: you guys aren't, right? If a pop star puts out an album that
Sorry, that was good.
that people don't like, right? People don't open whole Reddits, right, to slag that person about the quality of their creative work, right?
That's very true.
They're not all over
very
Twitter.
true.
Like there's some comments and there's some bad magazine articles and you read those, but like it's not what happens with it. Like, and so in order for you guys to move your products to be something a little treated and handled a little more like Microsoft Office or Adobe, right? And I get it, that's not quite what you are, but the point is your consumer relationship, you guys need to stop talking so much. And here's my personal cut is my feeling, what I would, if I were captain of the industry for a day, right? One of two things: games either come out early access, and I put some framework around that too. Like I don't feel like the right thing to do is to charge $40 for access to an early access game. I feel like there should be some modicum of a cap, right? Right? Either put your game out early access, or else don't send out review copies. That's my cut. And when now gamers, because here's the problem too, people still to this day, I don't know, I'm uncertain about this game, I don't know all these things about it, but I'm gonna pre-order it, right? And then I'm gonna get mad when the game's crap. Well, guess what, right? Part of that is on you. That was a consumer decision you made, right?
Yep.
Nobody said you had to play that game on day one. You can wait for professionals to review that game and get a sense of opinion about it, and then go buy it. You don't have to play it on day one. So my personal cut is a 360 degrees, everybody involved. On the developer side, either put it out early access or don't send out a review copy. Don't let people make a commentary or a message about a game that is not done. Not done even as not done already is in today's current release regime. Right? But don't let people write a review about a game that you damn well know you're putting out a 45 or 60 gigabyte day one patch for. right? That doesn't make any sense, right?
Yep.
And then gamers let the game come out and let the media or whomever you trust review it, right? And don't listen to the comments from the people who put everything in a 2-minute soundbite with a sensationalist backstory and a clickbaity headline, right? So that's to me like across the board kind of what I feel like needs to happen and what needs to give.
I think you're absolutely right. I don't know, I don't think we're going to have any control over how consumers consume their shit. I think that's going to be uncontrollable, but the industry does have control over how much and how often they communicate. This whole fucking like community dev bullshit, the community managers, the all that shit. They basically made positions for people to talk to the developers, so the customers don't have to, type of thing.
And farming it out to influencers,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Right, people who aren't even really part of the industry.
No,
right?
No, who know nothing, right?
Like,
I mean, somebody who sells bathwater also plays your game and is
right.
now selling your game and their bathwater.
Look, it's not games, right? But like, I'm thoroughly frustrated with Nvidia, like farming their card out to a bunch of streamers to have them comment in their sizzle reel about like those. I'm sorry. Those flipping people don't know anything about graphics cards.
And we can't get your fucking cards, Nvidia.
Right, on top
they
of
don't
that.
fucking exist, man. So that's bullshit. This dude who's playing Fortnite on it, no, I'm mad. But no, you're right though. I mean, the last 10 years or so, even maybe the last 5 years, has been this big push for, almost like that Romero rock star status, back in the Doom days of having chicks and cars and shit, but instead you just have lots and lots of hype, right? I mean, they create this hype train, and it's sometimes it's not good, as we've seen with Anthem, as we've seen with Cyberpunk.
I mean, here's my thing, right? And this is why I try and I take a little umbrage about just how this whole thing is going, and I'm sure at some point it sounds like I'm apologetic for CDPR. I'm not. That company is responsible for what they put out. But when you step back from that, right, and look at the world, right, at the industry larger, the fact of the matter is that the cyberpunk thing was a perfect storm and a boulder rolling downhill and a fireball that just increased in mass and intensity, right, the further it fell through the atmosphere. Right, and it's in my opinion, it's not all on CD Projekt Red. It's part of it is 90% of it might be, right, whatever you want to, right. Part of it was how they messaged it, how they allowed the hype to build. I mean, to be quite honest, like some companies, you see them kind of tamp that down. Like you see Microsoft and Sony do that. Like rumors get out that there's going to be an announcement of a thing, and you see now Microsoft will come out and say, "Don't expect us to say anything about Halo at this event.
Right.
Don't expect us to talk about Ratchet and Clank at this event."
And that may seem like a weird thing to do, but tempering some expectations isn't always a bad thing. I mean, the one thing that the video out there that you might come across did highlight was all the hype, and there was a lot of cyberpunk hype, man. They pumped in a bunch into marketing, and they oversold this game by a lot. And that is on them for sure. But I mean, before you go on, I want to present you with this. What is it? And I've asked people this. How do they get over this hump? What do they do? Or what are they, dare I say it, owed? What do they owe the gamers? Beyond refunds, the gamers that still have the game or that couldn't get a refund, what is the expectation? What would make these people happy? Because I have not seen anything aside from them basically going under forever that will make this hate go away, which is stupid, which is a stupid wish on anybody. So what's your opinion on that? Like, what do they do to kind of get back into good graces at this point?
Yeah, so you have to restore faith in the brand, right? You have to restore faith in the company. And so, like I said, like you mentioned, right? Part of this, delicate minefield to navigate is that, again, a lot of this conversation goes on Twitter. A lot of this conversation goes on Reddit. I've already addressed those are invalid places to allow your
Pretty much
message to be
so.
tempered. So you got to avoid that. And unfortunately, the only way to avoid that, Twitter and Reddit are kind of the equivalent of the Inquirer back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the only way to temper those type of rags is to starve them for information. Right? And again, some PR people will say, well, if you don't tell people about stuff, then people will just make stuff up. Let them make stuff up. It's uncorroborated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just let them talk out of their behinds, right? And so, again, I still to this day recommend the No Man's Sky route. Like, shut up. Like, just do the work, right? Because part of this is very much like a Rocky Balboa thing, right? Or an Apollo Creed thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rocky 4, right? Or maybe he even started this in Rocky 3, right? Shut the doors, get the press out of there. Stop making this about how the media messages what's going on. Close the doors, put your people to work, stop giving access, right? Do something with your do something with your contractors, right? Just make people sign something that makes them talking to the media incredibly punitive. I don't know how. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can't, but the point is that start closing the doors and get yourself into isolation and just do your work. And look, I'm not saying that because of Twitter and Reddit. I'm saying that I've been on software projects. I've been on adverse software projects. I have been on software projects where the customer is calling my company's VP, head of engineering, yelling, screaming, cursing at them. Like, I've been on projects where I've been on customer site, like 5 feet from my customer, and been in an environment where I'm getting calls from my boss. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why did you tell them that? And I'm like, where are you getting this from? That's not true. And then they'll say, oh, well, so-and-so, and I'm like, and I finally have to get to a point where I go over and talk to that customer. I'm like, why are you telling them this, right? And a lot of times find out that they got that from somebody else, and then I have to go talk to that individual. And then I just have to create an environment where I'm like, none of what you guys are saying is the truth. So, right? So my point is that when subjected to adversity, you've got to, you have to go to the old gym, right? You have to turn off the music, right? You have to go to the old dirty place, right? You need to close the doors and just get your developers to put their heads down and work. And I'm not talking about crunch. I'm just talking about get them to focus on the product and not on the hype and not what's being said on Twitter and not what's being said on Reddit.
Yep, there was an immense amount of pressure, and now it's done, right? I mean, it's done. It's over. You blew your load. It was disappointing. Your girlfriend is not satisfied. So now you duck your head down, man, and you work on your problems, right? Just like No Man's Sky did. And No Man's Sky basically disappeared for like a year, right? And now they're the darlings of second comings. People don't even realize the shit that was that first, rendition of the game. They love it. It's selling. It's on Game Pass. It's adored by fans. There's Reddits now about how amazing it is, but they also suffered from the hype, and their hype was nothing compared to CyberPunk hype. I mean, it was hypey, but it was nothing compared to CyberPunk hype. So get your devs in a cave, give them some food and water, some good clean clothes, some showers, and make them work normal hours, just doing their shit, man. And you can get a lot done without all those distractions, without the media hype, without people checking in every hour. How's this going? How's this build?
Yeah.
Can we release it right now? Now you have time, right?
Yeah,
So do it.
and here's the thing: I won't go as far as to go along with you to say normal hours. I don't know that there's normal hours in that industry. I don't know there aren't normal hours in my
Normal
industry.
industry hours. I don't know.
Right. And so that's the developer thing of it. The second thing I would say is don't eat your own pride, right? And what I mean by that is you and I didn't watch the video, but I read the articles that were, and a lot of the things that the CDPR CEO said rang true to me, right? Which is we were high off the success of The Witcher 3. We thought that it would all work out, right? Yep. I get it, been there, right? Yep. What I would say, one of the key things that I've learned is don't be so prideful that you don't look elsewhere for help. And so one of the things that he mentioned was that, one of their key technical problems was of the concept of streaming data, right, on the older consoles, that there isn't sufficient bandwidth to move data around the bus. And so the reason you're getting those models not filling in textures is because they're challenged to get that data off the GPU onto your screen, right? I don't know that this is the fix. I'm just throwing this out as a for example. Say what you will about Star Citizen, but Cloud Imperium Games has invested a ton of effort into streaming data software in an effort to get dynamic weather and in my opinion, much more complex graphic models streamed from a server to an end user, GPU to the screen, right? My point is that there are other people around the software and computer industries working on streaming data problems. Don't be so prideful of what you've done that you don't consider that maybe there's solutions somewhere else that you can license that may help you solve your problem.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Could be that you license it. It could be across, let's just say, across the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. There are two different gaming companies that solve that problem in two different ways, and you wind up with a brand solution, right, that works, but works differently. Don't be so prideful that you don't entertain thinking outside the box like that. Don't be so prideful that you think you're so far down the design path that you can't consider alternatives. Again, that's a mistake and a hole that I dug for myself in the night that my software leads and I stood around and thought about how would we fix a problem if we had designed it, right? We were left with this application that had been designed by people much more experienced than us, and we felt like we had to stay in that hole and fix that problem. And when we opened the aperture and considered how would we have designed it from the very beginning, we were able to solve the problem. So that's the second thing I would say. The third and final thing I would say is strategy-wise, like you said, like No Man's Sky, like a year later, they came back, right? And it was the start of kind of turning the car around. Just like you mentioned, rest your folks, give them some time away. I know that under the PR pressure, there's this huge burden, this weight on shoulders to start pumping out patches. Maybe stop. Just like you said, you're not going to fix the problem. You're not going to turn around public opinion. You're not going to restore faith in the brand in a month.
No.
This is a marathon. Yeah, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Give your people a month off, right? Let them clear their heads. If somebody wants to tinker with code and see, let them do that. Fine, but don't put them under production pressure.
Right.
You've already done the refunds and all that mess.
You have time now. You've done refunds.
Right.
It is playable on most consoles at this point. Those sales are lost. It's done, man. The damage is done. So as long as you can still pay your employees, have them take some time off, And I know like dudes that you're talking about. Have those dudes just know that there's no deadlines, because I know motherfuckers just love to work, and and that's their piece. But don't force them to do anything. Just say, hey, for this next 2 week or 4 week period, let's gather our thoughts and take some time and spend with your family and your loved ones and whatevs, and we'll come back and have a nice little powwow, and discuss where we're gonna go and what we're gonna do from here to fix this, because they have DLC planned. I mean, they have a bunch of stuff that they want to do. So rest up and make those incredible. I could see them coming back in 8 months with a DLC that's just kick ass, or some next gen patches that really fix or some of these issues that people were having, or make these the visuals just blow people's
Yeah.
brains out, right?
And what I said about not be prideful, and again, this is just a for example. I don't know that this company or this source is the best thing, but I mean, I might take my leadership team and get on a plane. You can't get on a plane now because of the pandemic. But I mean, you can, but you can't. But at some point, right? Get on a VTC, get on Skype, get on Microsoft Teams, whatever. Talk to 343 Studios. Figure out what they did about Halo: The Master Chief Collection. Right? Look, find the team that has had a close failure similar to yours that has kind of turned that around, and talk to them, right? Because I'm sure that even though you guys are competitors, I'm willing to bet that, minus sharing proprietary information, I'm willing to bet that they'll talk, right?
Oh,
And I
they'll
would,
talk, yeah.
I would look at, I would look at 343 Studios, look at the Master Chief Collection and what it was when it came out. Look at the fact that they've turned that title around, ported it to PC, and it's incredible on PC, and the package is
Selling
incredible on
well.
PC. And in my opinion, again, you can't satisfy everybody in the Halo world because some of them are just toxic and they're never gonna like anything. But for a lot of people, they've turned the MCC around. Talk to that team, and this is a team, and the reason I say talk to them, because part of their problem, part of CDPR's problem, is the multiple version thing. Not that multiple versions is a problem, but they've gotten themselves in a hole with their versions. They've got a PC version, they've got the next gen version, they've got the legacy version, and they've created some disparity between those that they need to fix. 343, in my opinion, has done that. They've got a version, they're working on the next gen version, they've got a version that runs on legacy, they've got a version that runs on PC. They've taken original titles that they've done, titles that Bungie did, and they've put them together in a package, and they've put them out in a title that I would contend today is acceptable and enjoyed by most of their consumer base. So
Agree.
figure out what they did, right? And take whatever you can and whatever's appropriate. It doesn't have to be repeated or mirror it or copy it.
No. But yeah,
But take the
you're
lessons learned
absolutely
from
right.
that
And these creatives absolutely love talking about their shit, dude. You could ask devs, do it, programmers. I mean, anybody. Even my fellow like network engineers and server guys, man. If they did something right and you ask them about it, holy shit, pull up a chair. They will tell you everything. So no, that's great advice. That's great advice. I think that wraps up our show, man. We went a little long, but that was good. I like some constructive, talk about this kind of shit, because all you see out there is the extremes, and nobody ever suggests something. And I know that there's a quote somewhere somehow about, if you point out a problem, make sure that you can provide some constructive, criticism, or something. I mean, if you're just there to bitch, then your opinion at some point is hollow and empty, because everybody knows, that that's already happened. So there you go. We just fixed all the problems with CD Projekt Red and CyberPunk today on this show. Again, thanks for joining us. Anybody out there watching on Twitch, or anybody watching this show after the fact. I think we're going to wrap it up. This was episode 13, 18, 13. I don't even
13.
know. They both look the same. 13.
13 for
Uh,
18 January.
yes. See, that's why. That's why. Episode 13 of The Internet Needs to Calm the Hell Down, about games. And I hope you had fun. And please feel free to tune in next week when we're back on talking more shit and solving the world's problems.